And I was noticing something. I thought, I can't believe I could make $50,000 in one day. And I just like blew my mind. I go, 50,000?
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. And we invite fascinating, interesting, cool, and people who you are really going to enjoy on to help us. And that's why I'm so excited that Sun Yong Kim-Manzolini is with us today. She is the CEO. She's a published author. She's a one-of-a-kind mentor. And she has gone from being an orphan to being a self-made millionaire. So thank you so much, Sun Yong. I'm so excited you're here with us today.
Thank you, Christine. I love being here on your podcast.
So I guess, should we start at the beginning, or should we start with the success, or should we start with the challenge? What would you prefer?
Either way.
I guess I would like to hear at what point you decided, if it was a decision, that you wanted to be a millionaire.
Very good starting.
Excellent.
I was at my dream job for 33 years.
Wow.
And I loved, like I said, it was my dream job. I loved it. Couldn't wait to go to bed at night so that I could get up early in the morning. And I don't need a coffee or anything to get excited to go to work, because it was truly my dream job. But I realized as I was working every single day, 40 hours a week, and I was still living paycheck to paycheck. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I struggling when I'm working 40 hours a week? And besides, like, I was, struggling to pay bills even. And I thought, this is crazy. And
what was your job at that point? Sorry to interrupt you. What were you doing?
No, that's okay. Certified medical assistant. So I was working at a doctor's office and clinics, working with a doctor side by side with helping patients. Like I said, I love my job. Like, I love helping people. But even though it was my dream job, I thought, I have got to do something. And of course, I wasn't expecting to be a millionaire either. I just wanted to get out and just make enough money to be comfortable, and not to live a luxury life or anything like that. And so I decided to just say, I'm going to retire in 2014. And I told my doctor, and he's like, whoa, can you afford it? And I said, no. I only had like $10 in my checking account. I was waiting for my next payday, to pay bills. And there's times where, of course, I was married and then I divorced my first husband, and then I ended up, as a single mother. So which made it even worse. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I thought I got to do something. And I tried to go back to school, trying to get more degree and get more money. But why should I leave my dream job? But when I was realizing, I thought, if I continue to work here until I can retire, I'm going to stay broke. And that's not the way I want to go out. And, and besides, I think I learned a lot of, valuable lessons from my patients, because that was one of the things that determined for me to retire early. Not only I was making enough money, but I was observing my patients as they retire. They were exhausted, overwhelmed mentally and physically. And so the time that they should go on vacations, they ended up going to doctor's office, emergency rooms, or ended up in a nursing homes or assisted livings. And I thought, I will not retire and have that kind of lifestyle. And some people, they retire and they ended up going back to work because they were bored, because they didn't have a schedule. Right. So they ended up, turning into a couch potatoes. And so, they ended up going back to work. That was a better alternative. And there's some patients they were climbed up highest with their company, became a CEO and business owners. But, when they retired because of the age, whatever, especially when they were working for corporate companies, and then they retire and then they don't know what to do. And their influence of their life, it's just kind of gone down. And so they start another job with a brand new company and they start from the very bottom. And I thought that just doesn't make sense at all. You might as well stay at the first job, you were at the CEO level making, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all those things, considering and, not making enough money at my dream job, and that's when I decided to retire. And so, like I said, I was telling my doctor, he says, can you afford it? And I said, nope, $10 in my account. And he says, when? I said, within a year. And exactly within a year, 2015 in December, I retired.
Wow.
And not knowing, like I knew that I could not, use my retirement pension plan 401k. So I just retired, and I'm one of those entrepreneurs that I set a goal and I just go for it.
But this is fascinating because I know other people are sitting here thinking, well, probably a lot of different things. One is that of obviously what did you do in that year? Like what
Mm-hmm.
changed? But also when that happened, did you think, wow, I should have set this goal like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 33 years ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, and we do that, and you can't really talk about what could have, what should have, you know what I
Right.
mean? And there's never a good timing either. You just have to go for it. You just set a goal and say what you want. Because I had no idea I was gonna end up, becoming a millionaire doing option trading. And that was like, I never even heard about option trading ever. And so how did I ended up doing that? Do you know what I mean?
Right. It's a great
And that's a
question.
good question. Yeah.
The question I
I'll
should be
answer that
asking.
for you. Yeah, I'll answer that for you. And so, we all tell our kids and we tell ourselves, if you're going to get a better paying job, if you want to move up in the world, a career ladder, you want to, prepare yourself and have a new job lined up before you quit your current job. Well, same thing with the retirement. Like, unless you want to stay, not busy and just, turn into a couch potato or travelers, whatever, then you don't have to. But me, like, I want to stay busy because you should stay busy to keep you young, even
Yeah,
after retire. You got to have a
absolutely.
purpose to, get up every morning,
Right.
excited just as you are when you're working and feeling important at your workplaces.
Right.
But and so I thought, I looked into like being a real estate investor. So my husband and I, we both decided that when we retire, we're going to become a real estate investor. So we started going to real estate seminar. And we went there and they're like, you can make so much money. And I thought, well, the reason I came here because I was making money. I did have a one rental and I was making any money. I was going broke, And so I came to learn the skills of how to do a rental properties. And at that place, they said, well, when you make so much money as a real estate investors, you should invest your money to have money work for you. And I thought, okay, that sounds good, because I usually have my money with the investors company. And so I said, what is it? And they're like, option trading. And I go, huh, what is that? It's like, I have never heard about it. And they says, well, if you pay for the, class, we'll be more than happy to explain. And so then they said, will you be interested? And I said, well, I don't know. And I said, what is required? They said, well, you gotta do it with the computer. And I said, well, I'm out because I hate computers. I hate computers and I hate checking emails. And so automatically, as soon as they brought up the word computer, I said, I'm out. No, not for me. And so then I pursued the real estate. And but I kind of took a class on the option trading, knowing that I wasn't going to do it, but I thought I'm going to take on this new hobby. A lot of people take a new hobby when they retire. So it was going to be my new hobby. And it's like, okay. So I decided to pay the money to learn the skills. And then after I retired in December, I actually like start going to, like auctions and looking at properties and things like that. And I thought, well, this is crazy. The reason I retired because I want to stay home, not, going outside of the home. And so real estate investors took me outside of the home because still had a high school teenager boy, and so I wanted to be home for him. And so I said, okay. And I just rolled up my sleeves and I said, okay, I'm going to start studying this option trading, and I'm going to face on my challenge. I'm going to learn everything there's to know about option trading with computer. And so I dove in, and I literally treated this new hobby as like a new job. And I had this mentality say, okay, I just got done retiring from working basically 9 to 5 for 33 years. Why don't I take this learning, this new hobby into a sane way? Like I'm gonna be working 8 to 9 hours a day and Monday through Friday. I know how to do that. So why not do that? And so I did that and practiced with the, virtual money. And I was noticing something. I thought, I can't believe I could make $50,000 in one day. And I just like blew my mind. I go, 50,000. So I remember texting my husband because he was still working. He was going to retire a couple years later than me because he was working for the government. And so I texted him one day and I said, guess what? I made $50,000 today. And I was so proud. And both of us were like, too bad. It's not real money. And I know.
It's
And
easy
so
to be
we were,
brave when it's
yeah.
virtual money.
So we were like having fun, like I say, it was my hobby. And then I realized, and I thought, what if? I said, what if I could do this for real money and have this be my lifestyle? And so I thought, So what I did is when I thought about that, I started setting up goals with my virtual money instead of just having fun. But then I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I could make like so much a week. And and so I said, okay, I'm gonna see if I can make like 50,000 this year just doing, virtual money. And I was able to do that a lot less than, within a few months. And so I thought, okay, that's no big deal. And then I thought to myself, okay, well, I can't practice this forever. As much fun as I'm having, since I cannot touch my retirement and 401ks, why don't I just really lip into doing this for real? And of course, I didn't have any money. And so I ended up getting a home equity loan.
Ah, wow. Now
And
that's ballsy, you have to say.
yeah,
That
yeah,
takes some courage.
yeah, well, because I have to come up with some money and I didn't want to work for a company and it might take me another 5 years to have enough money to start, right? And so
Yep.
I
Yep.
took a home equity loan and I started trading. And I said to myself, all right, if I can make about anywhere between on my own, not working for the company, anywhere between 60 to 90,000 a year, I'll be so happy. Like, oh, I don't need anything any more than that. So I set a goal amount that I want to make. And then I said, how much do I have to make a month? How much do I have to make a week? And how much do I have to make a day? So I really broke down to small steps, right? Instead of saying, oh, 90,000 a year. And I'm going to get overwhelmed because I'm still learning, right?
Right.
And,
Yep.
and so I thought when I broke it down, it was a piece of cake. And so my first year, I ended up making 178,000.
Wow. So now, how long did you practice before you felt confident to take the home equity line?
Just only like a month or two because I've been practicing, No, no. When I started with the real money right away, just because I took the home equity loan right away because I practiced, but I practiced for the whole year. Now, normally it does not take a whole year, but like I said, this was my hobby and I wanted to save these and I was having fun.
Yeah.
And
Well, so
but
that's what I
like,
want to say. So you practiced for a year and
uh-huh,
then you started with real money.
mm-hmm. In,
And then,
in in 2006, 17, yes.
and at that point, you were pretty much doing that for 8 hours a day, doing your
Yeah.
practicing.
Mm-hmm.
How soon do you think you could have started if you felt comfortable? Like if you already had that money, say,
Oh yeah. So I have a clients that I teach, and I gave my clients like 12 lessons, 12 lessons, and they could still make money easy because I still teach, and I have
yeah,
a clients that are, wanting to take 6 week course or 12 week course and things like that. So if they take like even like a 4 week course, yeah, they could do it as long as they have enough money to pay for the course and then they have money to funds to do it.
yeah.
So yeah, you could do it within a month.
So you feel like
Easy.
if somebody practiced for like a month that they would have enough
Yeah.
information to just jump in and do it.
My strategy, yeah, because not everybody's strategy is my specific strategy, just because by studying it, I came up with the most simplest thing that we could do to get into a stock market. And so, yeah, you could do that easily, and you could make, like I said, for example, like one of the accounts, I always, tweak my strategies and come up with a better every time, so um, one of the accounts, or somebody has like $500, and that's this account that I have approved to show to audience or anybody that my clients I show, is that I set out with the $500, and I turn that into 4 grand within 3 to 4 months with the $500. Now, where can you get that kind of interest or return
Right.
in that short of a time, only having $500
Yeah.
to
So,
$4,000?
so for people who don't really understand how options work, could you
Yeah.
just start with like like a little primer so people understand if they're listening? I know everybody probably has heard about
Yeah.
options, but I don't know if everybody understands how trading options actually works.
Yeah, sure, I explain that. So basically, the difference between stock and options, everybody knows about stocks, right? You buy stocks, and it involves buying and like a selling shares, like buying and selling shares of the company, like Boeing or Tesla, whatever it might be, right?
Right.
That means you own a piece of that business, right?
Right.
The company, and your profit comes from like a dividends, the interest, or when the stock price goes up. That's the only way that you make a stock, money in with new stocks, right? Selling or buying stocks. With the options, it's pretty easy. On the other hand, it gives the flexibility with the options. So what does that mean? You have a right to buy and right to sell, but there's no obligations. And so to buy or sell, like a stock in a specific price. So in other words, like if you want to buy stocks on Boeing, you just click on the buying, right? But with the options, you choose like a specific, like a strike prices within the company, okay? And you either a certain time, so you could expire those dates. So you could hold it for 3 years or one day or 1 week. The flexibility that I'm talking about is that. So you let that trade expire by a certain day. So you have to close it out. You have to sell it. So when you buy options within a stock market of any company that you want to get into, and there's expiry dates, right? And then you can make profits whether market is go up or down. So there's another flexibility.
All right. So let's say that I wanted to buy Boeing options.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the first thing I would do?
Well, first thing, you gotta have like a right platform, right? You have to do it in a platform on the computer, and you could do it on the phone.
Yeah.
But if you have a training, you'll get the results much faster.
So,
So
but what I'm saying is like if a person just wanted to so how I want people to understand even a little bit more in detail
yeah,
about how an
sure.
option works. So first I would have a price at which I would buy the option, right? So how do I decide I want to buy Boeing option? I don't even know what Boeing's selling for. But
Yeah, I'll look it up now. Okay, so Boeing is selling for 190. Hang on just a minute. I have my Boeing here. Yay. Okay. So Boeing price is $193.10. Of course, market is still open for the next half hour. So, price changes every time. So $193.09 per share of Boeing. You could
okay.
buy percentage or you could buy one share.
Right. So let's say that I wanted to buy an option on Boeing. How would I decide? Do I decide what I want the price to be? So I'm going to buy an
Yes,
option to buy Boeing at
certain.
$197 or 190. Would it be less or more than what it's trading for now?
Uh, you'll be, well, you'll be less basically. So I'm going to show you this really quick, the price difference of how much stock market is so expensive. You want to do options because options are so much cheaper. So if I wanted to buy like a Boeing, just a one share, just a little bit of one share of Boeing, for example, okay, and it's going to cost me just a one share. Let me see, it's going to cost me let's see,
You say like $193.
19,000.
What's
Yeah,
that?
$193. So it's gonna cost, $19,000, right?
Why?
But
I
with
don't know.
options, if you were to buy, that's just a stock, right? That's just so if you want to buy one share of stocks on a Boeing, okay, so that's gonna cost you a lot of money because nobody has like $19,000 to buy like one share of stocks, okay, which is $193.08 or 9 cents. It moves a few cents.
Right.
So it's going to cost you like $19,308, a price of 19. But if you were to do options, let me show you. You choose like an expire date. So let's say you wanted to buy like options in a Boeing, same company. And we're going to let this expire. We're going to have to sell it by May 30th. Okay. So which is like 22 days from today. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we choose two strike prices. So we're going to choose two strike prices. So let's say we got to look at the market first and say you want to do an up trade or down trade. You can't just buy it just like stocks. You have to look at the market and say, okay, well, Boeing is kind of going up a little bit. And so either it could go up continually or it could come down. And so let's just say it's up. Today's, news came out with the President Trump and, new Pope. And so that's why market is up. So now with the next 22 days, I think the market's going to go down a little bit because everything that goes up is going to come down anyway, right? So we're going to do a down trade. So flexibility of options is like, okay, you could do a down trade or you could do an up trade and you can make money either way. And so we're going to set up a down trade, for example. Okay. So we'll do a down trade. And so I'm going to decide on the 22-day day that you have to sell that options back to make the profit. And what I'll do is I will buy, and then there's a strike prices within the options, because there's no strike prices on the stocks. You just buy or sell. But with the options, there's a strike price, so you choose, and you choose
So
the
strike
date.
price is when it hits that price.
Yeah, right. No, strike prices are the prices that are available to buy, whether you're going to do a down trade or up trade. It's very simple because it's already strike prices are pre-made by the market makers. It's in the computer. So you
Okay,
just
so
choose. Very
there's
easy.
some other market out there that's offering a price for
Right.
Boeing to go up in the
Exactly.
next 22 days. Okay, so
Right,
you
right.
so
Or
you decide,
down.
okay, so you say, okay, I think it is going to go up. So you
Or go down or up. Yeah.
or
So
whatever,
then,
yeah, whatever you think
yeah,
it's going to do.
right.
So if you now, how does that make you money, right? So what you've got
So,
now, you have an option to buy it at a specific price.
uh-huh.
How does that turn into being a profit?
Okay. Let me actually go over this. I could look at my current trade and they just tell you what it is.
Okay.
How's that instead of walking through the whole thing. Because I already have a trade here. I pulled up one. Okay, so basically, I just have like a Disney, as we're talking, I just closed and I ended up making $2,500 in
Okay.
3 days. And how I did that is because I chose two strike prices, right? And I'm gonna go in here and just going to, because it's closed, and so I have to go back and pull up my thing. Okay, so okay, all right. So Disney, for example, the reason ended up making like 2,500 because I bought it and I paid like so much money, and then like you have to go into like there's a price that you got to pay to get in, right? Nothing is free in the world, obviously it takes money. So you pay certain price to choose certain strike prices, okay? And then so in other words, Disney right here, let me just go into here, Disney 5103, here we go. Where is it when I want to buy it? Okay, journal.
So while you're doing that, I just want to say to people that we're not suggesting that you go out and buy options on Disney. And as a matter of fact, the options that Sun Young bought, this is going to be like 2 months ago by the time you see this. So
exactly.
it might not even make sense to do that, even if you wanted to take her advice. So just we're not giving you investment advice. We're just trying to educate you on how options work.
Yes, exactly. So options are a very, very cheap way to get into a stock market, and because a lot of us don't have a lot of money, you know. So basically, I chose the strike prices on Disney, and this was like May 1st. So I'm looking at my journal here. May 1st, I chose the two strike prices, and it expires like I still have like a what 20, it was a 22-day trade that I did, okay? And what I did is I pay overall one strike price cost money and another strike price cost money. Overall, I ended up spending um, $1,673 to get into this strike prices, right? And then I ended up closing at 26. So you take, 26 minus 16 is like what, 10, right? And then we did a 10 contract. And so you figure 10 times, so you made, really good money on that. Basically, there's
So
a different contracts that you could buy, like one contract or 10 contract or 20 contracts.
So that contract is what's actually changing in value. Not that it doesn't have anything to do with the price of the stock.
No, the contract is I'm talking about like 1 to 20 contract. That is like a quantity. Like you could buy like a one quantity one. You could buy one apple or two apple or 10 apples. The
Right.
more like items that you buy, you could make more money. So in other
Right.
words, like if you buy one contract, you could only make like 100 versus you buy 10, you can make 1,000.
Right. So what
Okay.
I want people to understand is how options make money. So
Okay.
when you
So yeah.
so I buy an option and the option
Mm-hmm.
so the strike price is correlated with the price of the stock, right? So I say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this company is now selling for 150 and I'm going to buy a strike price at 145, right? Is that a
Mm-hmm.
thing I could
Yeah.
do?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when that sometime between when I buy it and when it expires, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a price associated with buying that $145 strike
Right.
price.
Right. Right.
So sometime between the day I buy it and the day it expires,
Mm-hmm.
would the price of the stock go to 145 or
Yes. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like basically, when you set up options, there's a break-even number
yeah,
that comes with it. So
yeah,
break-even says, let's just say the prices of let's look at like a Boeing, for example, it's 193.
yeah,
So when I choose a two strike prices that expires in 22 days by May 30th,
yeah.
and my break even is at like let's say 194.
Okay.
Okay, and its price is at 193 4 cents, whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're setting up an up trade and the market has to go up 194 above to make money,
Okay.
because the break even number is like 194. And if you're setting up a down trade, then the market of that Boeing has to come down below 194 with the next 22 days to
Yeah.
make money. So does that
Okay.
make sense?
Well, and now I have to understand like who are you selling the option to, or how does the money actually come from the option? Do you know what I'm
So
saying?
yeah, so it's a platform, and there's a market maker, so this is like with the New York Stock Chain Exchange,
Right.
just like how the prices is for per share. So however the company, so when the company, so for like the example, like the Boeing, right?
Yeah.
So when company is doing well, and people are buying stocks or buying options with the company. And then as you set up your certain strategies and market does what you think that it will do, but if it goes opposite, then obviously you're going to lose money.
Right.
You're set up a down trade. So it comes from the company itself, how the company's doing.
Right. So this is how I understand it. You tell me where I'm wrong.
Mhm.
I'm basically buying almost like a contract. So if
Right.
I say, like, just to make it like, to go back to your apples example. So I come in and I say, okay, I know you're getting some apples in next week, and I'm going to agree to buy them without really seeing them. I'm going to agree to buy them at 25 cents a piece. Now, when they come in, they might be big, beautiful apples that everybody's willing to pay 50 cents a piece for, and then
Yeah.
I make the difference. Or they
Right.
might be terrible worm-eaten apples that people are only willing to pay 10 cents for, and that's why I'm like, oh, too bad. I shouldn't have paid 25 cents when everybody else is only paying 10
Yeah.
cents. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly, how it works is that,
Yeah.
everything is a risk and you take a chance because you don't know how the market's going to move, right?
Right. Right.
Because
Exactly.
nobody knows, even the, like billionaires. We all have our own strategies and we think, and that's why you study the market. That's why you look at the movement of the company, by the chart, by the platforms that we use.
And would you say that that's where a lot of the learning comes in, is how to
Yes,
interpret the market and understand whether it's
of course.
likely to go up or down?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Because if you don't know what to read or what to look for, then boy, you could lose everything.
Yeah.
Even with the stocks, and I have clients come to me and say, you know what, I've been doing stocks and I lost everything. And I said, how could that be? It's all about discipline, and sometimes like we could get greedy. For example, like in 22 days, the max profit says I can make 5 grand. Okay. Well, right now I'm making 2,000, for example, and I have another 15 days left. And am I going to wait around to make that 5,000? Well, some people would,
Right.
right? But then,
Exactly. But the
but
2000 is a sure thing because it's worth that today, right?
yeah, it's worth that today. That's how much you're making your profit. And you look at the chart and say, okay, am I gonna, if I don't close it now, if I don't sell it what I bought, if I don't close it now, by looking at the chart, by holding it till tomorrow, am I gonna make an extra $500? you know.
Right.
But
It's a
if
gamble.
it's yeah, so if the market is coming down and you're already making $2,000 and you set up a up trade, you probably want to close today,
Yeah.
and $2,000 in 3 days is really good money,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
how long did it took? 5 minutes to set that up.
Right.
It's not like 8-9 hours a day to set that up. That's
Right.
the difference of value and the time.
Well, but it did take you time to understand the market, to understand what you think that the stock is likely to do. But the other
Yeah.
thing I want to just highlight is that you're being very methodical about it. You're saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, I made a good profit. Do you have like a percentage or an area, what should I say, like a
Guidelines of
target,
like a certain
like a
percentage.
target. If
Yeah.
you say, okay, I've met my target, I'm selling,
Yeah.
regardless of maybe if I held on to it for 15 more days, maybe I'd make more, but I've made my target and I'm willing and I'm going to just sell it now while it still makes sense to do that."
Yeah, I think that's a very good strategy. It depends on the each company again. Each company, there's a lot of movements. Like there's a $5 movements within one day, and then certain company, there's only like a 50 cents movement in 1 month. And so it depends on the company.
Yeah.
Yes, but I do have, my thing is like I'm a very aggressive trader too. My husband is a more of a conservative, and so he does that style. He'll say like, if I make like a 10%, I'm good. And me is like, you know what? I know what I'm doing and I know what my market is exactly. And I'm choosing the very specific companies that has a lot of movements because when you set up a trade and there's no movements, you could wait for a month. I don't want to do that. I want to make money now and I want to use the money now. I want to be able to go on vacations now. I want to be able to, buy whatever I want to buy instead
Yeah.
of, if something breaks down, I don't have to wait for when I have enough money saved where I used to live in that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's smart, right? But there's still a middle ground, right? You're not like rolling the dice and saying, "Oh, let me wait for 15 more days and maybe I'll make twice as much money." You say,
No,
"Hey, I
no, no,
made
no.
what I wanted to make. I'm happy. We're good." You know?
Yeah, it's a smart way to do it. It's like, you know what? There's no way I can make like 10% from the bank, not with the $500.
Right.
Even if they had $1 million, they wouldn't get that kind of, return, right?
Return.
So
Right.
you have to look at it and then say, oh, how long did I really work? Like, did I work and sweat for like, 40 hours a week to do that? No, it only took you like 5 minutes to do it or less, right?
Yeah.
And so the time value is just, exchange is just crazy.
What kinds of because that's the thing about the stock market because I do a lot of real estate investing where I feel like it's a little bit more
Real
stable, right? The
estate.
stock market is
Yeah.
I feel like the stock market is very emotionally
Uh-huh.
controlled, right? People don't like something that's happened in the world. Everybody sells their stock and the prices all go down,
Exactly.
or vice versa. Like something else happens and we're all happy and the prices all go up. So, what kinds of external factors do you really look into? Like, I mean, I imagine the election would be one big external factor
Yeah.
that you have to really take into consideration when you're looking at, because it's not just the company, right? It's kind of the
Yeah.
world. So what
Yeah. The
sorts of things do you look
GDP.
at?
Yeah. I look at a GDP, right? And then the housing market, job markets, right? Those things. And then, like I said, what's going on? Like, there's presidencies, new things, there's trade with the tariffs and things like that. So yeah, the GDP, housing, federal, interest rate, job, all those things. Those are the outside markets that I kind of pay attention to
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
kind
makes
of
sense.
decide. Yeah. Yeah, so it's really good. And then another thing is like, not each company really reacts that way either. Some companies that like they announce it on the CNBC and say, "Oh, this company is really doing well," and I look at it. In the beginning, I didn't know, so I look at it just because I don't know, and then it's like, no, it's not as good as what they hype it up.
Yeah.
You know.
Usually by the time it's on the news, it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And that's another thing with our life too, is like, like you said, you talked about by the time, you listen to this 2 months ago, right? And some things that are good and you have to just take actions right away, right? And so like a couple of years ago, 2, 3 years ago, there's a big thing about the gaming, the company that, people are
Yeah,
messing with.
Game Boy or whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just jumped on it and I made like, $20,000, $30,000 in 2 hours. And then I knew exactly what I was doing. So then I set up another opposite direction. And next day I ended up making another 20,000. And so, with the life, we have to take actions right away.
Yeah.
You cannot wait till, oh, that's just somebody talking, or I'm gonna wait till I'm in better place. I gotta wait till I have more money. I gotta wait till my kids graduate from high school or I graduate from, when I retire. None of that. I mean, I used that excuse for so many years, and that's why I wrote a book called Invest in Yourself. And this excuses that I'm guilty of is like I used all these excuses.
Nice.
You know,
Excellent.
it's like one day, later, never, next week, another day. And using these kind of excuses, sometimes for people, it goes by, they never do it, or
Right.
sometimes it's like 20, 30 years later. So you got to take actions in pretty much everything. And so even when your clients hear, what I have to say, they may say like, oh, you know what, that's good motivation. I've done that myself. I've been to a place where I heard a lot of good motivational and I'm all pumped up, like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change. I'm going to be a new person. And I go home and guess what? You're faced with the same people, same house, same
2 hours
furniture.
later, you're in front of the television with a bowl of Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Everything's same. So what do we have to do? We have to take actions.
Right.
It's really me, right? And so just because I heard a motivational speaking and then I was motivated to do it, not things are gonna move for me conveniently so that I could do those things, new way of life.
Right.
I have to
Exactly.
create it and I have to take actions.
Exactly. So that what you're talking about is mindset shifts.
Oh yeah,
And
big,
we talk
huge.
about that all the time on Get Your Fill podcast because
Oh,
that's what
good.
it all boils down to, right? You got to
That's
just
right.
make up your mind, like this is what I'm going to do. And then the universe just aligns itself and everything just comes together,
Comes
right?
in. Yeah, yeah. And not knowing the results is the beauty of it because it's easy for like if I was told I was going to be a millionaire doing option trading, I would have never hesitated. I would have said, okay, I'm going to learn it. What is it? Tell me, you know what I mean? Instead of saying, no thanks, no thank you. I don't want to learn new things. I hate computers. And so yeah, so it's easy for us to say, I don't care, how long or how much it takes. If I'm going to make $1 million within a year, I'll do it. No, We don't know the results. You have to have a biggest why and say why you're doing this mind shifting and why you're going to take actions.
Right.
You got to have a big whys, because if you don't, then it's never going to come, and you're not going to be passionate about it. There's no, and you're just doing it because, oh, well, you know what? There's so and so made $1 million, because of they did this. And it's just not going to happen, just because life goes on and there's so many things come in and out, unexpectedly. And yeah, so it's the beauty of it is like you basically say, my deciding point was like, even though it's my dream job, but I'm sick and tired of living life, struggling, hard time paying bills and struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. I just want to end that kind of lifestyle. That was my determination. It's like, okay. And therefore, I had to do something way different in my mindset I have never thought about.
Right.
So, yeah.
So how does it work when people sign up to work with you? Tell me about that process.
Okay, so basically they sign up, and I would like to have, obviously they sign up to make money, and they want to make money as soon as possible, not 6 months or 9 months or a year, right?
Right.
And so what I do is, if they're really serious, I want to find out what their goals are, and then work with them specifically, and I give them a chart for how much they want to make, and I give them like a plan.
Mhm.
And say, okay, you want to make $200,000 or you want to make $500,000? Here's a chart, and this is what you should do. And then I tell them like how much you got to make a day, and how much you should make a week, and then how much you should make a month, just like I did, doing exactly what I'm doing. And then I teach them live trading. So I don't give them any videos or anything, and I say, okay, we're gonna do it in the open market. So wherever, because I teach from all over, like different countries too. And so I look at the time zone when they're open with the my market, and so that we find the middle ground where the market is open in both places, right, where
Yeah.
they live and where I am. And then we just do a live trading, and basically we have a goal, and I give them a like a speed, what do you call it, like instead of taking like 6 weeks, I give them a once a week for 6 weeks. I
Yeah.
give them a lessons of like a 6
Every
weeks,
day.
like every day for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And then their homework is to do, that. And then you just kind of basically you're going to like technical college,
Yeah.
right? And then this is a skill that they could learn and they could start using, make money, instead of saying, oh, I went to get a degree, certificate. I'm hoping to make so much money an hourly. And you
Mhm.
have the freedom. You could do this part-time, and then you ended up making so much money that you ended up retiring your job way earlier than you ever expected.
Mhm.
It just comes with it. You're just be steady
So you're
and
doing basically
consistent.
one-on-one training with each person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I teach them as a group too. And
Yeah.
so basically the trading that I do, I have them do it. So when they call me or text me with questions, I know exactly where we are, because we're doing exactly the same trade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So which makes it much easier for me and for them, because I don't want to be answering like, 100 people or 200 people with the individual companies, right? When they do
Right.
it. But where
Research
I
every
do
single
it,
company.
yes, I teach them, I do it with them on live count. Same company makes it so much easier, than we're on the same page.
Yeah. So can you do options trading on any stock platform, or does it need a special platform?
Well, there's quite a few platforms. I use Charles Schwab's, so Thinkorswim,
Mhm.
and then there's E-Trade, there's Red Robins, there's a different platforms that you could do. Yeah,
Cool.
but I think that to get a faster result is like having a coach, because we could learn. And there's a free things that you can learn on the internet and things like that, but they're just different. They're just talking about general. But where someone says, okay, do this, I'm doing this. Like I'm buying an apple on this day, and I'm going to let it expire in 20 days. And then just because it's 20 days, guess what? I could close it out next day because I already made $2,000, $3,000. Why, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what coaching means. It's like, hey, close it out now.
Right. So what do you think that there's a type of person or a type of personality that does better at this than other people?
Yeah, I think the people that are basically not greedy, that greed has to be gone. And they have to be, because what happens is when they're greedy, like you say, when you're setting up options, like you could make like, $20,000 and you're only making 5,000. Well, no brainer, there's a room for another $15,000, right? But even though there's a time left, like let's say you got another 20 days left, you could make that max profit, but you got to look at the chart. You got to look at the chart and say, okay, is it going to go up to 94 or is it going to stay at 92 or below?
Yeah.
So discipline and not be greedy. And really, and then you have to really have a good attitude. You have to enjoy it. And you have to look at it as like, you know what, this is a really good opportunity, another skill that I could, ways to make money without me having to leave the house, for 9, 10 hours shift,
Yeah.
seriously. And so you just really discipline, enjoy it, and you have to have good attitude. You have to have positive attitude because when you sit up to do it and it's like, oh, I don't want to lose another money. Well, you're going to lose money, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So you can't have that kind of attitude either, because why even you start? Why even start? Instead, be grateful for it that you have this opportunity. You learn, you brought yourself to learn this new skill, way to have money work for you instead of you working for the money.
Fun. So, Sun Young, how can people reach you if they're like, wow, this sounds interesting. I want to give it a shot? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Well, they could reach out to me by direct, message or reach out to me with my email. So I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel too, and my Instagram. They could just direct message me and say, "Hey, I heard you, say your podcast name. I heard Christine, and then her podcast. You were talking, and I'm interested." And then I'll give them a really good discount. I mean, like 70% discount.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's really generous
70%.
of you.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think it's because, a lot of people can't really afford it,
Yeah.
even though the money that they're paying is worth it, they're going to make it up, within a year. But I just like to, really kind of pay forward.
Nice.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
But
Exactly.
they have to mention, your podcast because
Okay.
there's, I've been on the other podcast too. And so they have to specifically say, I
I
heard
was on
you,
Get Your Fill I heard you on Get Your Fill
the field.
podcast, and you said
Right.
you're going to save me 70%. I'm
Right.
ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Sun Young, so this has been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting,
Yes.
and I think
Good.
people are going to get a lot out of it, and they're going to be intrigued. But is there anything you wish I would have asked you? Anything that you wish we would have talked about that we haven't touched on?
Well, so yeah, the question that maybe that you would have asked me was like, okay, how was my mind with my mind, my life, at younger, before I retired, how
Yeah.
was I like? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think changed in your mindset between the time when you were working for the man for 33 years and then you started doing this for yourself? What do you think shifted that allowed you to become a millionaire?
Well, I think we talked about that where I was at my dream job, but I was sick and tired of, worrying about
Well,
paycheck to
but a lot of people
paycheck.
are sick and tired of their jobs, but that doesn't make
Yes.
them become millionaires.
Well, yeah. The reason I came millionaire because I happened to choose one, and I was really dedicated and disciplined and curiosity. And basically, yeah, and that the one part that I really didn't mention was this is like the people that are around me, my parents, my friends, none of the within my circle was making $1 million. I never heard about within my circle, but there's a people out there in the world that is making $1 million or $1 billion. And I told myself, like, why not me? Like, why couldn't I do that?
Right?
It's
Exactly.
never too late, and I could do that. And I didn't know what it was going to be. But whatever it is, you have to be disciplined, you have to be consistent, and you really have to enjoy, the process and thinking positively instead of saying, oh, do I do this? If I want to make this kind of money, I have to do that. You gotta change your attitude of whatever you're doing. So, and then other than that, like I said, I grew up as an orphan and, at very young age, I was really curious about money because when my dad, left me and my sister and we became an instant orphan after my mother passed away. And I thought to myself, inside of me, it's like, huh, is it my dad had not have enough money, so he could not take care of me, right? So when my sister and I, we lived in orphanage, and something else that kind of made me realize was it was normal. I realized it was normal for my dad to leave us. Why? Because at the orphanage, there was a lot of babies were dropped up at the front door. And the staff would pick up the babies by the front door and say, oh, we got another baby today. And it was just wrapped in a thin layer of blankets and things. And so at that orphanage, I realized and I go, okay, my dad left us, it's normal. So, okay, I'll get over it, right? But then my sister ended up taking me to another orphanage and she left me there. And I'm like, she and I, like, we promised each other, Pinky promised that she's going to take care of me. But she took me to another orphanage. Why? Because I didn't know how to walk. And she didn't have any money or resource to teach me or, to get an operation that I could, walk or something like that. And so she took me to another orphanage and said, I'm taking you here because this is where they're going to teach you how to walk. But I said, but you don't understand, sister. I don't want to walk. I just want to live with you. That was my main thing. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to lose everybody, my birth parents. So I've been through a lot of hardships and things like that. And so then at that orphanage, I did learn to walk. It took me 2 years. But had I not learned to walk, my life would be where I am today. And so I'm really grateful for like everything that I get to do. Like whenever I take a step, whenever I take a bath, whenever I have a change of clothes. I mean, I'm just grateful for there's not one thing that I'm not like, even this being on your podcast. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. So everything that I have an opportunity to do, I'm so grateful just from bottom of my heart because when orphanage life was like, like I ate breakfast, they fed us breakfast, and then what's my next meal? I had no purpose. I had nothing to look forward to.
Right. But now you have a lot of purpose because you're helping other people to become millionaires. You become a millionaire yourself, and now you're just rocking and rolling.
Right, exactly. So we have to learn to do that ourselves before we could help other people because, if I don't know how, then, I won't be teaching the good stuff, but they really need to know, you know what I mean? Because learn to make like, $2,000-3,000 in, 2-3 days, or making 500 turn into 4,000 in 3.5 months. That's just crazy, but yes. But I studied hard.
Yes, you did. You certainly did. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. It's been really fun talking to you. And I think people are going to be like, their heads are probably spinning right now. They're like trying to think of all their options of what they should be doing next so they can get to where, well, try to get to where you are or try to learn some of what you know. Excellent.
Yes. Thank you, Christy.
And thank you, listener, for listening. Now, think about some people. Try to think of like at least 5 people who you know who would like to have more money than they have, who would like to retire earlier than they were planning to. And for this episode to them, I will thank you. Sun Young will thank you. And your friends will definitely thank you. And have a
That's right.
fantastic week.